Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. For the following 90 minutes, we will have 2 sessions with multiple speakers. For our second session of today, we'll have what's new in Microsoft Copilot Studio and how you can leverage this with Business Central. But right now, let's get our hands together for data-driven Copilot experiences in Business Central. Summarize and Autofill, please.
Lay low, hit the sun, everybody have a real good time.
Welcome everyone. Hello, my name is Ahuja. I'm a senior software engineer in Microsoft's Business Central team in Denmark, and I'm here with Vasil.
Hi, I'm Vasil. I'm a senior software engineer for Business Central clients team in Denmark.
And together, we are really excited to talk about data-driven Copilot experiences in Business Central, Summarize, and Autofill. In this session, you'll not only see very detailed demos of these experiences, but you'll also get to know how we actually built it. So you'll get a little bit under the hood experience. But the most important thing, you'll learn how you can integrate your custom extensions to be ready for these Copilot experiences. So let's get this started. It was almost 2 years ago that we introduced Copilot, your AI assistant for work, in Business Central. And since then, we have built a diverse set of features in Business Central for your productive experience. And we have been learning. We've been learning a lot of things. We have been learning how to build and manage these generative AI experiences at scale. We have been learning how to make sure that they are safe and secure. And more importantly, we have been learning how users are interacting to these Copilot experiences. And one thing we have learned is that even though AI is definitely more approachable in ERP experiences, our users are not prompt engineers. So we went ahead and challenged ourselves to come up with more ways for users to be productive, where they don't have to think, what should I type? Is this the right way I'm typing? Will the machine understand these words? And they, in fact, just get out-of-the-box experiences without having to think of these. And that's why we are going to talk about Autofill and Summarize. Why these? As I also already mentioned, that these experiences have low learning curve for users. They can just get started with these experiences. But these are also broadly applicable concepts, right? In every software, these concepts can apply across every industry. But not only that, these experiences have been long-standing challenges, right? We know that data typing is tedious. Repetitive typing is tedious. We also know it's very hard to get a 360 view of your entity, because there's so much data in Business Central, and then even more richer data with your custom extensions. So these are the Copilot experiences that will help user be more productive, because they can now get autofill suggestions, and they can get summarized record with insightful data, then that they can know what is important and urgent for them. And not only that, they are also significant opportunity for you and for us to grow Business Central. So Vasil, let's get started with Autofill.
Thanks, Monica. So let's talk about autofill. As we mentioned, repetitive typing is tedious. And we all have our smartphones. We have a keyboard, smart keyboards. We type, and then we get on the top bar predictive suggestions, what can be your next course of letter, so you get the word, so you don't need to type the rest. So Autofill is your data entry Copilot in Business Central. It helps you remove that barrier of tedious typing. And it's not just the typing, it's the finding new information within Business Central and cross-reference that. So let's go in Business Central and see Autofill, how you can access it and how you can use it. So at the moment, I'm on the currency card, and I'm typing currencies, and I'm on the Japanese yen. So we have plenty of empty fields in here, and I want to add a symbol. And of course, I can go look it up. I can find the character. I can copy it, go back to Business Central, paste it, and so forth. But I lose my context. I don't want to go out of Business Central. My task is here. There was this sparkle icon that we saw. I pressed it, and within seconds, I get suggestion of what that symbol is. And it seems that it's correct. I can find additional information about the suggestion that I've received here. And I can see that, okay, it's commonly used. That's the symbol. That's amazing. I want to keep this. But we also get 2 additional suggestions in here. I don't know where these 2 come from. So I can see that this is a frequent choice. And right now, I know that most of the data that is entered here comes from Business Central, and this is a great way for me to stay and see what other places, what the value for this field is in other places. So in essence, this is autofill, but let's dive under the hood and understand how it works. So as we saw, we were in the currency card page. So what autofill does is tries to understand the context where you're at. So we look at your page, we look at your user, we look at your role, we look at the fields, we look at all the metadata, and then we take that metadata and we pass it on to our data sources, our suggestion providers. So for every field, and the current implementation is that we take the scope of the current fast step where you invoked autofill from, and we ask these data sources, please give me suggestions. And all of these runs in parallel. We ask all of these sources independently, what do you think is the best suggestion within your realm, within your domain of responsibility? Each of these data sources provide suggestions for every field. So we end up with multiple suggestions for every field. But as we saw earlier, we only get 1. What do we do then? We have to figure out what is the best one for you, for the user, within the context that you currently are. We pay attention to how much data you've typed already. What does that mean for your role? How are these suggestions applicable for your current context? And we try to ground that within the data that we send to to Copilot. And once we've ranked them, once we figure out how to provide a coherent suggestion set, that is what we surface to the user. So we use AI as a decision engine. We look at captions, we look at tooltips, we look at teaching tips, we look at data types, we look at a lot of metadata to help us understand what is the current use case. We look at which fields do we need to provide suggestions, which data sources are applicable for these fields. We also look what data makes most sense here. And we have, at the moment, 5 or 6 data suggestions sources. The most recently used value, the most frequently used, intelligent lookup selection, AI-generated, and web search, which will be available later this wave. So let's look into all of these suggestions provider individually and understand how they work. So for the most recently used value, every time that you access a record, every time that you select a value from a lookup, we take a note, when did you last access this record? That helps us understand the recency of the data for how important it is to you to be able to understand if this is the most relevant suggestions for you at this very moment. So this data is not, this suggestion provider does not include an LLM. This is strictly grounded inside your Business Central data. We also have the most frequently used data source. So unlike recently used, this looks at the scope of your whole company within, of course, respect of your permissions. So we try to find, within the scope of your company, what is the most frequently used value. When it comes to lookup selection, lookup selection data source is, in fact, does include an LLM. It tries to find what is the best suggestion within a finite number of options. So if you take, for example, a lookup, a simple lookup, you have defined 50, 100 rows, and that's it. And the user can go and scroll through, filter, and find what is the best option for this value. This is a finite number of options. We get those, and we ask an LLM, like, what do you think, based on this context, is the best? This also applies for option fields and of course, lookups. We have a data source which is AI generated, and this is something that is of general knowledge, something that the general foundational knowledge of the model can answer. But in here, we have the risk that this might be fabricated, as you might have seen working with LLMs. It starts to come up with weird things. So we saw earlier in the slide that we try to guard against that. So we try to ground the data within your Business Central data. And of course, we have web search, which is powered by Bing. And this data source tries to do a Bing search to find what data can be found online for the context that you're currently at. So all of these data sources, we try to mix and match which fields on the page make most sense, and we select the ones that are just the best for your context. Can you tell us more about Summarize?
Definitely. But I just want to rephrase that this is a very powerful Copilot experience that can help make our users be more productive. And in each of the slides that Vasil showed, there is a thumbs up and thumbs down icon. And we really appreciate that you encourage the users to actually give us the feedback, because it helps us improve the responses for that. So moving from one powerful Copilot experience to another, let's talk about Summarize, right? So as I said, Copilot is your AI assistant for work, and now it comes with the ability to summarize any entity by identifying what's important and what's urgent for the user. And it does that seamlessly because it's integrated seamlessly into your Business Central cart pages and document pages out of the box, and without you having to export data to a lot of business applications, or without you having to do a lot of intensive training on the models, or without even users having to get started by writing on the prompt. So let's see a quick tour of it. So here I am on the customers list, and let's go to any customer. In this case, I'm going to Alpine Ski House. And you can see that now there is a dedicated new area right here, what we call as summary fact box, where you can see the top 3 most important thing that the user, depending on its role, in this case, accounts receivable administrator, would need to know on this given entity. In this case, it's telling me that the balance of this customer is this much, and it has overdue payments. And I think an account receivable administrator would be interested to know if a customer has overdue payments. It's also telling what's the outstanding invoice amounts to, and what's the total sales for this customer for this fiscal year. And it's telling how many invoices has been recorded for this customer. So these are the 3 things that it figured out behind the scenes by getting the data from Business Central database and scoring what would be the important, understanding the user context, and then giving these 3 important points. But that's not it. It's also interactive. So let's see where this points to. So you can see here, for example, when I clicked on the payments received total, it actually highlights the fact box. It highlights the field in the fact box where it got the data from, making sure that you know where the data source came from. Let's also try another one. In this case, it opens a related page to this entity and shows that this is where the data came from. But if you want to know more, then we can just go ahead and click Show More. And in this case, what it will do is, it will show you the 3 bullet points that you have already seen, and then also extend more bullet points if you want to know more about this customer. So as you can see here, and this is also interactive. So in this case, for example, the average collection period is 40 days, gets pointed, and you can notice that it actually expands the fast tab that was collapsed before. And imagine now if all user has to do this manually, they would have to actually go and find where the data is from. But in this case, it just points right where what is important and right where it comes from. And since this is in chat pane, and now that you know that this customer has overdue payments, maybe you want to take some action based on this information. So you could just continue having chat with it, with the chat pane. So let's try, let's set up reminders. Oh, let's try again. Live demos. And in this case, I'm hoping that Copilot can come up and tell me how I can set up the reminders within Business Central, and it does. So this is very powerful in the sense that you can further interact with the information you got and make the right decisions. And even further, maybe you can just go and do some actions based on it. So let's say I contacted this customer, and maybe this customer said, sure, I will do the payments, but I prefer paying by bank. So we could go to any purchase invoice. Let's say, I'm picking a different customer, but my idea is to show you that it's also available not just only on cart pages, but also document pages. And we could change the payment method here. And now that we changed, for example, some data, and we want to see a new view of this entity, we could also click refresh. And this will now generate new data, new summary based on the updated data that we changed. So that's the overall summary experience. Let's see how this was built behind the scenes, what's happening behind the scenes. So in this case, we start first with collecting data about the user. We understand what is user's role about. And then we collect all the related data that we can find for the entity you are trying to summarize. So we get the fields, we get the fact boxes information, we get some related pages that has high aggregated data. And then we send all this data to LLM to figure out what are the insights based on the data. And how does it do it? It does it based on understanding the entity that we got in the data, the metadata, and also understanding the role of the users. And then it comes up with set of insights. And then what it does, it scores those insights based on the context that we have provided in the data. And then it pretty much produces the top 3 bullet points with the markdown, interactive markdown. And that's how we see the summary. And this is how we built the overall insightful summary generation process. But that's not it. It's not a one-time thing. What we plan to do is to evaluate the summaries that are generated based on the feedback, but based on the manual tests and automated tests. And then we want to understand, is it good summary? Is it a 5 out of 5 star rating? Or does it needs to be improved? And when we get something that needs to be improved, we want to make it an iterative process where we can add more data sources, maybe data from ledger entries, maybe data from outside Business Central. And we want to understand more about the user. What was the intent of the task of the user? And then we want to make this an iterative cycle, so better insights generation and better summaries. So as Vasil said, in these features, AI is the decision engine, be it to understand what facts are reachable from Business Central, be it to understand what are we looking at, what data are we dealing with, metadata we are dealing with, and which of these is important or urgent, and what can be correlated together to present a comprehensive, insightful summary. And how does AI decides that? Based on the data sources. The data sources in Summarize case are record fields, fact boxes, related tasks, and the context of the user. Let's deep dive into each of these. This is where you can also contribute as an AL developer, because if you understand how these data sources work, you can make sure that your custom entities are built in a way that improve these Copilot experiences. So let's see. First and foremost, data source for a given entity is the fields that are visible on that page, definitely. This also includes, for example, for document pages, the subparts like lines, they will be also sent to LLM for figuring out the insights. And of course, it respects permissions. So there is never, ever going to be a case where AI can access more information than the user who's trying to get the summary. And it also respects users' personalization and customization. So if you have spent time deciding this should be the layout for this particular user's role or this particular user's experience, that will be respected. So when we get the fields from the page, we also want to make sure that we get all the surrounding related data. And there are multiple ways to define how a data can be related to an entity, but we wanted to prioritize and make sure that we send the one which has more insightful data to LLM already. So we went with fact boxes, as these are related facts that are already visible on the page. And in this case now, let's deep dive a little bit more, because not every fact box that you would see on a given page will be sent to LLM. For example, we are excluding some metadata, some system fact box, for example, links and notes for now. We are excluding some fact boxes which has a provider property. If you are an AL developer, it basically, if you're on a document page, a provider property tells which sales line is selected, for example. And this again respects permissions, I repeat, and respects personalization and customizations. Next is related statistics pages. In this case, we define the related pages as the actions that you have defined on your current page. Those actions lead to some other pages, right? And those are the pages that we think is related pages. And that's how we started building on those. So we wanted to get all the related data. But then over the time, we realized that we want also the summary to be very performant. So we wanted to filter out the data. So we started filtering out the data with pages that would have names, statistics, or stats. So in that case, all your statistics pages will now be sent to, the data from that will be sent to LLM for generating the summary. Why statistics pages? Because they provide aggregated and analytical data view already. They already have the statistics in that. As an AL developer, you would want to know these two things. The actions that you define on your AL page where you're getting the summary, they will be only sent for summarization if they have run object property defined. So they that property decides which page to open. And the filters that you will define on those actions will be respected. So if you're on a sales card and if you have an action that goes to customer and the customer is filtered by the customer that is defined on the sales card, sales document, then that filter will be respected. So only that data will be sent to LLM for that particular customer. Okay, these are the data sources, but we also send information about users. And where do we get that information from? It's the settings that you have already defined for your user. For most important setting that we care about in summarization is the role, because we want to make sure that the summary is role tailored. Because Copilot and agents, they deliver more accurate, relevant, and valuable responses when they know user context. And summaries specifically become more effective when they are personalized to the user's role. So that was all about how we build Summarize, but now we want to know how you can integrate your custom extensions to make these experiences better. So let's talk about extensibility, Vasil.
Thanks, Monica. So let's talk about extensibility. So Autofill and Summarize are features that are our platform. So they come out of the box and they work for every page, for every field, for every extension. So they are not directly extensible, so you cannot write any AL extensibility to these two features for the time being, but we are exploring options like how we can enable you to do that. And what you create and what you place in the metadata can heavily influence the performance and the accuracy of these two features. So it's very important to write good metadata. Let's look into how you can do that. So for this particular exercise, we thought, let's write a small extension that we can define certain rewards and we can assign rewards to a customer. We have created a small table where we can place a reward ID and a description of what this reward does. And then we have some parameters which define certain criteria of whether or not customers satisfy that. We created a page where you can create, edit, and view all of these. And as you can see, on this page, we have defined tooltips, descriptions, teaching tips, where we explain very precise what this does, what this field does, what is this page all about. As we showed earlier, we take the context from the metadata. The AI LLM understands the context as much as this metadata tells us. So writing good metadata is key. We draw inspiration from the tooltips, from the description, from teaching tips. That's helpful for your users to onboard them to your extensions, but it also helps platform features such as Autofill and Summarize to understand your use case better. So all of these we have defined very precisely, very verbosely. And we have an extension on the customer card where we have added this field. So if I go now to Business Central and I see, let's take Adatum Corporation, we can see that we have these fields here. But let's create a new customer. I want to create Microsoft as a customer, and I'm going to write Microsoft Development Center Copenhagen. So we have these two, and we can see that autofill appears for these as well. So I can invoke it, and we get your extension as well to understand the context of the customer card better. And Microsoft gets no discount. Oh, why is that? No. All right, because yes, so this is a new customer. It doesn't have any purchase. We're not entitled to discounts. So this way, you can help the platform, you can help these two features to give better results for your customers. How about Summarize?
Of course, it also works with custom extensions. So let's continue on the reward extension. And here we have a rewards page. So let's go there. I'll just close this. Let's keep this.
Yeah.
I think it's fair that we
It's
don't
fair,
get
yeah.
discount. Okay. So let's start with the rewards page. And here you can see that we also have a summary fact box available for this custom page. And it shows the summary for completely custom page. And it mentions that the top 3 things that we need to know about this custom reward card.
Awesome.
Works?
So remember that all Copilot features rely on good metadata. Please use descriptive English text to describe your apps so the LLMs can understand it better. And use role-tailored profiles, because that is really important for you to get role-tailored experiences. It helps with security, it helps with segregation of duties, it helps Copilot give you better results.
Definitely. And we can't talk about Copilot experiences without talking about responsible AI. So I want to make sure that you understand that these features are built with responsible AI in mind, which means we follow all these 6 core principles while building Copilot, these 2 experiences. And I suggest if you're building Copilot experiences, please also follow these 6 principles. Fairness means how AI allocates opportunities, resources, or informations in a way that is fair to all the users. Reliability, safety, privacy, and security ensures that we are considering how the system functions for people across different use conditions and context. Inclusiveness looks at how the system should be designed to be inclusive for people of all abilities. And finally, transparency and accountability accounts for how people could misunderstand, misuse, or incorrectly estimate how the AI could be used. So we need to make sure that we are creating the experience with all of these 6 principles in mind. And one more thing that we would like to mention, that with these experiences, admins are in control. So they have the control in the sense that these features are on by default for all the users, but they can go to Copilot capabilities page and turn them off if needed. They also come with distinct permission sets. So admins can choose to enable them for few selected users only if that's what they want. So admins are always in control. Okay. Last but not the least, because we want to have some time for Q&A, is that both of these features are in public preview currently. They are available in all Business Central online experiences in desktop. They support all type of environments, be it trial, sandbox, and production. Right now, they are only supported in English, but officially they are available in all the languages. So that means there might be some behaviors that we not support in other languages, but English is fully supported. And as we said, they work with custom pages and fields already, but they are not directly extensible in AL yet. And do you want to talk about what's coming next in Autofill?
Yeah, so we have demoed multiple times Bing and web search with Autofill. We are working on releasing that later, that wave. So for those who have used Autofill, that's coming up soon.
Okay. That's it for these 2 experiences. Now it's Q&A time, and I can see a hand already there. So let's start it.
Yes, okay.
You saw, you showed the tooltip property in the page, and since the new version, it's possible to do this with the tables. Is it also planned to have the about properties in the tables in the future? Or does it interrupt with your features?
So the about properties are a part of the onboarding framework in Business Central, which define teaching tips for pages. So they are related within the page context. So we don't have any plans yet to move them on a table level.
All right. Thanks.
There's a question here.
I'll get back. Here you go.
Thanks. You mentioned that in principle all fields can be auto-filled, but in the example I once saw credit limit being filled and once it not being filled. How do you influence when a field can be auto-filled or not?
Thank you, great question. So at the moment, there are some limitations of what autofill supports. We don't support Boolean fields and date fields. We are working on expanding the coverage to all fields on the page, all data types in essence. But when it comes to supported fields and sometimes getting results and sometimes not, it also depends on the context. It depends on what the data sources have provided suggestions for and whether Copilot evaluated, are these good suggestions for your context? Because sometimes the suggestions might not be relevant and we don't want to force wrong values onto users. So not receiving suggestions is better than receiving bad suggestions. Yes.
Yes, I have another question regarding autofill. On one of the first screenshots you showed on the currency card, the account number was pre-filled, but account number is a lookup to another table. How does it work? Do we feed all the available accounts to Copilot, and can we control it somehow? Does it consider the filters on the table?
So, yes, I believe so. So when it comes to lookups, there are multiple options, that multiple data sources that can provide suggestions for. So I'm not sure, like, I can't remember whether I showed which data source provider provided that suggestion, but in certain cases, it might just be the most frequently used values. And in this case, that particular filter is not applicable. But in the cases of lookup selection, as we saw, where we get to choose based on the finite number of options, that is respected.
I see, thank you.
Any more questions? No? Good. Thank you very much.
Thank you very
Thanks for
much.
attending.
We have the T-shirts for first two people who asked the question. So I guess it was one of you, was it?
And was go.
No more questions?
Thanks, everyone.
Okay, then thank you, everybody. Thank you for your time.